from some location somewhere around the world. It's Mike from around the world. Mike?
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
Hey, you're coming in loud and clear and wonderful. How are you? Happy 4th of July.
I'm doing good. Happy Independence Day to you, too.
Yes. It's a great day. What our nation's 248 are we today?
Yes, we are. Still young, though, by standards of nations.
Yeah,
we're young.
Yeah, we're real young yet. We're going to get to 250, aren't we?
I have no answer.
No answer. Well,
no answer for that.
That's tough, Mike. That's really not really encouraging. All right, Mike, let's do this. You sent us an email earlier today.
I did.
And why don't you help us understand?
Well, it concerns the president. Of course, but everybody should be familiar with that debate that took place, right?
Yes.
Everybody should be, and it was somewhat of a sad thing to watch, but it was quite revealing. Well, it was so revealing that the entire financial base of the democratic system, this information, the information I'm about to tell you comes from those who actually fund the base. We're talking about the big money folks, right?
The big money.
They moved, right? The big money, not the little fish, big guys who if they back out, it's over for everybody, right? Everybody's back to a $125,000 paycheck per year. But everybody has shifted their money to the body of Washington. It's no longer being issued to the president, meaning there's no backing right now, none, zero. And we're talking about for standard operations of a president, they always have a base that supports things. Well, they lost, these guys have lost total confidence. They had about, I believe it was about 14 meetings between today and yesterday. These were high level, closed doors, and they just don't have confidence. So most, if not all of them, are moving their financial support system, the entire system, over to the Senate and Congress. So they're not the administration is about to dry up.
So in other words, Biden's campaign is dead on arrival at this moment. He's got like $200 million, but I mean, that'd be gone in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and it goes a lot further than that. Most people saw that debate, and they were, a lot of people try to bypass or sidestep the obvious. Well, at any given moment, it is not good for any president, for anybody to say, well, the president was tired. Okay, because a president is on his post 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can't afford to get tired.
No,
right? It's part of the job. And so confidence has been lost to such a degree that now the Democratic base, the major players of the Democrats are getting together. They want the seat vacated.
Do they want him? Let me ask you this question. Do they want him to actually even resign as president of the United States?
Yes.
So you're saying beyond just step out of the campaign?
Yes.
Wow.
And in fact, there were memos were written. A couple of meetings were held with the VP and some other folks, prepping them to get ready, right? So you're looking at a process that is not going to take long at all. Not long at all. So they're analyzing data of his, not only his campaign, right? But they have to go through a slew of medical tests now, right? Which things were not forthcoming. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was not.
Things are not forthcoming, but you can't sweep those things under the carpet now. You just can't do it.
What if he?
And so,
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is one of those immediate issues. So they're looking at about a 4-day period.
Okay.
Right. Before some major things begin to, major processes begin to be enacted.
Well, Mike, there's the 25th Amendment, which can be activated by the vice president and the entire cabinet. Are we talking that I'm going to ask this question. Biden, is he not getting the memo that he's done? And is he still?
Yeah. Now their speech is one thing. How they will vocalize to the very end, right? That they're going to stick it out until the day they walk off the scene,
Right.
right? So
Right.
it is somewhat of a misdirect as far as what pundits are saying and what information is being conveyed. But the truth is, Monday morning, when Monday morning rolls around, I believe this issue will be amplified to a great degree. Um,
Wow.
this weekend is the make or break weekend. The data should be back this weekend. Certain
Okay.
appearances, he's going to make certain appearances. They're not going to help him at all, right? Now, before I know a lot of people in that base. I don't know what their target is, but what they because listen, during that debate, right after the debate, some people who watched the debate, um, and of course it was hosted on CNN, they heard the Democratic conversation from the pundits take place,
Yes.
and they began to highlight Kamala Harris. They said, "Well, she did a great job." That's what they kept saying. Right? They shifted away from President Biden to Kamala Harris, saying she did a great job. They needed to see what the response would be from that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, before VPs can go into place, but we've never had this situation. Normally, 25th Amendment that takes place, during obvious things, not really for a cognitive issue,
Right.
right?
Right.
Now, this issue, this health issue, can turn into a legal disaster, which means not only here's how different this is. Not only will one seat be vacated, but those who covered up for that issue, right?
Yep.
They won't have confidence to hold their seat either,
No.
which means a whole new procedure can be enacted where somebody can be bought in to take that position, right? And this is what we could likely face.
Now,
So it's not going to be as straightforward as people think.
well,
And that
Harris
means,
is it mean Harris automatically is going to become the next president,
well, here's the issue
or can
though.
they go around
If the
her?
VP has covered up,
Oh, okay.
right, for the president,
Yep.
there's no confidence in the VP for that issue. Because when you're dealing with somebody who has a cognitive, just a sharp cognitive decline, and people have been covering for
Yeah.
anybody with a medical issue like that,
Yes.
this country is at risk. That's a breach of all securities concerning our national security. So they have no confidence going into that seat, right?
That's
Now,
right.
it also means anybody who's been involved. So you're looking at those who supported, those who spoke for him during the, for example, Obama, right? Obama was speaking for him, supporting him during this campaign. So he knew about it too. No confidence in him either,
Sure he did.
right? So there's no confidence in these folks, and this means that something different will come forward, right?
Got to clean the slate. You're saying they got to
The first
clean this.
shakeup.
They got to shake
Yeah.
the whole thing up. The cabinet,
Yeah.
every cabinet member had to have known.
It could be a legal
the VP,
disaster, but
yeah,
that's right.
the
Because
doctor.
once that seat is vacated, that is an admission. The only way to bypass that and delay any of the legal processes is for an instant resignation for the sake of the country and present it that way. And that must happen almost immediately, right? Almost immediately. This shakeup is not going to, Passball is going to cause some fights. It's going to place everything will start to shift and change at that point. But I have to go in because I know this process is being pushed right now. It's being pushed. In other words, they're not waiting, just to see what Joe's going to agree with. If
Right.
they have
It don't
to,
matter what
they're
he
going to do
agrees
it
with.
for him. They're going to do it for him because if they find him mentally incompetent and he can't, he can't execute that appointment, his elected seat, they're going to push him out. And if he's pushed out, a council will govern that position, right? Now, a council, we've never had that before.
No.
Not once. But we also never had a president who's experienced a cognitive decline, right? Allegedly, like President Biden is experiencing right now. I mean, it was obvious to the public.
It was so
And
obvious that everyone knows, and it's
yeah,
sad.
and so many things have changed. And this is not just. I'm not talking about. This is not an idea. The papers have begun to move. The filings are happening, right? So
as we speak.
Things are in motion right now.
So, Mike, and you are now. Look, folks, you guys know Mike's been on here so many times over the last 10 years and has said things is going to happen before it happens, and it does happen. This is gigantic. But I remember November of 2019 when you just said, oh, by the way, at the end of a broadcast, you said, oh, by the way, come March, millions of people will die in China. It just kind of left me hanging there. But it happened exactly because nobody even knew there was such a thing as COVID. Here we are now. You're saying this is going to happen, that the procedure is already in play. The big money men, first of all, have said it's enough. That's it.
Yes.
We're not turning the spigot on again until you guys clean this thing up and put somebody else in. And they obviously are the ones going to pick who they want to be the next nominee, at least, to take on Trump in the election. Am I right?
Yeah. If you have no money, what can you do?
You got to do what they say. You got to do what they say.
That's right. So the bottom line is, it is a money thing. Now, in the meantime, Pastor Paul, our national defense is at risk. Here's why.
Yeah.
America polices all these other countries, right?
Yep.
And if anybody has a problem out there, it's important for those countries to see where the USA stands. For example, Europe is on its highest alert level ever. Europe has never been at this alert level. And this is about the 72-hour mark. So they've never been this high as far as their alert status. And things that are in activation right now, they will begin to activate. More will activate Tuesday. People will find out their children are being deployed this coming week. By the way,
what?
That's why they passed that bill that in America, they can draft you, right? You don't have to sign up for the draft.
No, they can draft you.
They can draft anybody, right? They can do that now. They go through these the federal database and they snag your information, and there you are. Yeah. So the reason why they did that, right? Because you got to ask yourself, why would they do that now? And why would they pass that so quickly? I mean, we're looking at Washington can't pass anything swiftly like that.
They pass that, though.
So they pass that quite swiftly because they have an understanding of the security issue the USA faces. Now, we have enemies out there. We know that China, we know that Russia, we know that the Middle East, we know all these guys, they're not exactly our friends, right?
Right.
If something happens to the USA, they're not going to have our back. And so here's the situation we face. I'm going to give you a similitude to this. If you had a person that dictated everything in your house, right? You can do anything without their permission, but they weren't exactly favoring you, right? The moment they fall, the moment they sleep too long or something like that, you take advantage to put that person out of your house because they oppress your heritage, right?
Right.
And so these other countries are the same way, which is why all of them are positioning, which is why we have balloons over America right now.
Again?
All these different things are happening.
Again?
Yes, again. Okay. In fact, not only over the USA, but over all allied nations are foreign balloons. But you didn't hear that one.
No, we have not heard that.
So you have all these things happening because they're collecting intel. And also, there's some spotty issues within America right now. America has one of the highest internal terror threats there has ever been right now, right? The public is, they are, blissful to this.
Can we ask you a question on that, Mike? Because, we had an explosion at General Dynamics. Actually, it was yesterday. General Dynamics, that's where the Javelin missiles are made. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, that was the Camden facility, right?
Yes.
And that place is what is that place? That's considered a high rate production center for systems integration testing of energetic products, Javelin, Hellfire, things like that.
Yep.
But they've never had this type of issue, right? Now, it does sit in an area that has had this issue before, but not them. Their safety standards have to be high because of what they work with. I, for one, if you look at the employees that work here, I got to be careful here because I don't want to sound like a bigot or anything.
All right, I
But
got you.
the persons that work there, you have all types of people that work in these facilities. You have experts from all parts of the world, right?
Yes.
You don't exactly know where their heart is. And it's so easy for a person to, just look away when they need to look back at something. What I'm saying is that sabotage should be expected all throughout the country. It should be.
Yeah.
If you have Americans who are revolting against Israel and revolting against America, and they are American citizens, then we have a problem with those who are in America being loyal to their own land. So we have acts of betrayal taking place. Now you put that on top of this terrorist threat communications of foreign nations concerning the USA, which is why the UK, Europe, all these places are on high alert
Yes.
in general. We have a problem because we have a lot of foreigners in this country. We're a big melting pot, yes. Not only do we have the issue at the borders of our nation, people coming in unaccounted for, but even the people who are accounted for, many of them turn out to be, some of those folks turn out to be jihadists. Some of those
Yes.
folks turn out to be people you don't want in your life. You don't want working in your country. And they're here and they're employed and they own things and they're turning. They're just turning, right? Because they're for their own nation. When any war in the Middle East begins to hit at the heart, the core belief of that place, right? And you have Iran and you have these folks in Lebanon, and you have folks like not really Hamas, but the Houthis are a little more powerful when it comes to religion. You have the Saudis. You have Jordanian personnel who are not loyal or who don't like Israel. They're always touting this is a faith war, and you have to make a decision. This is what they're being told. This is a faith war. You have to make a decision. And so you have people here in the United States who are making a decision for the Islamic world over anybody's heritage who live here. This is the type of threat we face.
Serious.
Right? So how do you guard against that? Because you have people in positions all throughout the USA. You don't know what they're loyal to, right? You don't know what their true faith is.
No, you don't.
And when a faith war comes, it doesn't matter. Just like if Pakistan said, if something happened overseas, they're going to join the Islamic groups over the USA.
Yes.
Right? They're going to become nuclear against everybody else,
Yes.
against the USA. So the problem we face is we don't know who the enemy is. We just don't know. We all know the problem behind that, because we should have stayed, in my opinion, we should have stayed with the Bible. Right? They're in a mad dash to try and get the Bible back in something somehow, but they've already let the enemy in the camp. And
the enemy brings with
at the
it
Camden facility could very well be.
Yeah.
It could very well be sabotage.
Yeah, I suspect it. Being the 4th of July, the odds of
at that facility,
or
perfect
any
safety record. No,
right? Yeah, I'm just not buying it either. And Mike, let me ask you. You bring up the draft. They slipped that in kind of quietly, really. I mean, we heard about it. Some of us, on this type of platforms.
Right.
But man, they really did. And so, what is it that why did they felt need to prepare for that? Obviously, they're going to use it. Why? Is it because of they're not getting the quality soldiers they need? They don't have enough, or they know something big is coming? They got to start preparing.
They can't communicate what's happening right now. No one can communicate what's happening right now.
You mean they're not
that conversation?
Can't have that discussion, because if you do, you can't tip the enemy off that we know what they're doing.
Yeah, that, and they don't want to spook. See, we have a climate in America that's very fragile, right?
Right.
And so they need to secure elements of Washington before they make any declarations public. But we are in a type of crisis. It's starting to reflect in every aspect of life, and they just can't say anything about it. They're maneuvering and putting their pieces overseas and in different places. The Navy has been doing things. They're highly active. Air Force is highly active. Elon Musk just signed 2 new contracts with our Defense Department, right, to have some emergency launches and launch capability for emergencies. Boeing is on board. You notice all these companies.
Oh yeah,
they're preparing to launch military vehicles.
yes.
I know people think they're civilian, but then why are they rigged to carry specific military hardware into space? They're doing this at breakneck speed, right? Why? Because number one, they have to catch up. They underestimated China. They underestimated Russia, right? Russia's supposed to be kaput by now, but they're not.
No.
They underestimated Iran big time. Everybody thought Iran was some third world thing, but time is telling what they really are. And you have all these swappable pieces in the Middle East. These nations like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, all these different places, you don't know where their loyalty stands. And they have trillions of dollars, right? Trillions. They don't need American money. And that's one of the real problems. They are self-sustained, right? They don't want that truth out. They don't want the public knowing any of this, because if they do, people will start losing confidence within America.
Absolutely.
And if that happens, they're going to bolster sympathy for some of these countries out there, right? A lot of people have sympathy for Russia right now.
Yes.
They do. Because they don't understand the ideology of Russia. It's not about any one individual. It's about a collective effort to do something that will cost millions of lives, period. Many people underestimate Iran.
China's the same way, right? I mean, they've been on a 100-year plan.
China is very focused. Fastball, China is one of the most confusing places right now to a lot of people. I'll tell you why. Is because they're changing in many different ways. I'll make a strange statement. China is not going to remain against U.S. interests for long. They won't.
Is there a reason that they need to?
They're having internal changes.
Oh,
and
in
it's
China.
not because of external pressures. Something is happening in China that just nobody expected. Right? They're having internal changes.
Really?
Yeah, they are. It is the strangest thing. One could say, because they're getting so advanced, they're actually reevaluating things in their own heritage, that they're starting to see things in a different light, no longer from an oppressed position, because China was oppressed for a long time, right?
Yes.
As soon as somebody becomes independent, they start taking a different look at things. It's kind of like a person who is stressed about their bills and they fuss at everybody in the house, but then all of a sudden they find out they can pay all their bills and they tell everybody, hey, I'm sorry, I just lost my mind for a little bit. I'm calm now. So something is happening in China, right? Something.
So do you
really
think
happening.
It's possible that since their economy got so much better than it used to be, people now have things, and people actually, their standard of living is better, that they don't want to be pushed around. They don't want the big brother telling them what to do. They've had a little bit of taste of a better life, even though they've been under communism. They don't want to be pushed around. They don't want to, you saw what they did to Hong Kong when they took that back. And Taiwan definitely don't want to be captured, basically. And I say captured because they never were under China. I don't know where China gets this, that they were their providence. They really never were. Okay, let's go back to Russia for a minute. Russia, Ukraine, something's going on there. The money, obviously, Biden can't be just throwing $300 million at Ukraine anymore, or $30 billion. No. That's over. He can't. He's done with the decision on that. So, do you think Ukraine knows at this moment they're sitting ducks?
Yeah.
They're dead in the water.
Yeah, they know. That's why they appealed. Actually, they had talks with. He was in the Middle East, right? Zelensky was in the Middle East.
Yes.
He was talking to Israel directly. Yep. He was talking to Saudi Arabia directly. He was talking to Jordan directly. He's talking to Turkey directly. Talking to all these individuals, and they're going to have to do something quite different. You know, Putin is not backing down. In fact, Putin has
No.
split his forces, right? And I hate to say this, but forces of Russia will soon be fighting Israel.
I was hoping you would never go there, but the
Yep.
Bible does say that is going to happen in Ezekiel 38. I mean, it says Russia's one of the nations, Turkey's another one
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
going to eventually go to war with Israel. So it's
Turkey's
not.
a bit brazen about it too,
Yeah, they
because
are.
Turkey is they're starting to break some of those intimate relations with the USA and NATO,
Yep.
and that no one ever anticipated they would break so quickly. And Russia has already committed, a large amount of troops to the Middle East in support against Israel. Right? This is right now they're doing this.
Unbelievable,
So
but I know they are.
the dynamics of that situation are changing
But that's that hook.
rapidly.
Is that the hook in the jaw that it talks about in Ezekiel 38? It draws them in.
Huge. Well, they're going to be drawn in, and that could be the hook where they can't really leave it alone, because if they allow the Middle East to fall, right, they won't receive that money coming in from Iran, right?
Right.
Iran is selling them quite a few things. Iran has what they need, and Iran has technology they need to continue what they're doing, right? And Russia they have advanced things, yes, but they work in a co-op with Iran. They have been for a long time. And so, I mean, my goodness, even their aerial defense net covers the total totality of Iran. So, yeah, it's a very intimate relationship. You're talking about trillions of dollars per quarter, right?
Right.
You got to wonder why are the sanctions not working against Russia?
No.
Because Russia, right? Russia is they don't care about the U.S. sanctions. They don't care what NATO does. They don't need the money. Every time somebody comes on television, they say, "Well, Russia needs the money," right? And they cut the money off. Russia does even better, even better. They tried to lie with propaganda saying that the Russians are starving and this, that, and the other, right?
That's
But
not.
then they come out, the populace of Russia says something different. They even paid people to who speak Russian to paint Russia in this terrible light, like they're just back backwoods individuals who have absolutely nothing. That's not the case. The one thing that worries me about Russia is they're Muslim, that they have devout
The Chechens.
Islamic individuals there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These people are in their armed forces, and they're at such high numbers. Now we know that Europe is about to have somewhat of a type of problem with that.
Yep.
We know that France is going to have a problem with that. They're already having problems with that.
Big time.
The UK is trying to back down from it. They're trying to do things where they don't have that problem. It's unavoidable, right? It's unavoidable
Hey, Mike, do you think
because they
that?
want to take down the whole of NATO.
Yes. Do you think this Olympic Games in Paris? I mean, are you concerned that there could be a major terrorist
Yes, I
attack?
am. I am. And in fact, where there's a gathering of people, a lot of people, is there's no way you can catch every safety concern, because all safety is not a concern until it's exposed to be, some type of concerning issue. In other words, there are going to be gaps and holes and things that they miss. There are going to be people that look innocent, that may be loyal to the Islamic world's cause, the radical Islamic world's cause. And because last week, they constantly declared a jihadist movement. Now, not a jihad, but a jihadist movement. And these are from conservative Islamic individuals, right? They're start to forecast their prophecies, right, that are against us and Israel. Now, we're talking about the peaceful
Yeah.
Islamic
Yeah.
folks are
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
They're starting to see it. And so what that's doing is bolstering a cause behind the faith, period. Now, when a specific call comes out by way of their own convictions, the same way, Pastor Paul, that you and I are convicted by the truth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, there are certain things we can never do, right?
Right.
And nobody is ever going to walk into a place where we are and start advertising Jesus is not real. That will cause the spirit to rise up in us. In a defense against the liar himself, right? Well, they feel the same way. They feel the same way. And once this call goes out, They're going to unify. They will unify. They're going to drop everything they're doing. You're going to see Sunni and Shia unify under the cause of one prophetic fulfillment, one element of fulfillment. And I expect that not to be too far down the road either.
It looks like just this today we've had a massive eruption at Mount Stromboli there in Italy. And I'm looking at the pictures of it right now, Mike.
I feel sorry for those guys.
That's a big one. Now this is a volcano that does erupt quite often, you know.
It does. It does.
But how do you feel about Italy and just off?
Well, here's the problem. Even with that eruption, right? They know the magma is spreading underground. People are forgetting about the airport and the smoke coming up from the roads and the strips in the airport, the repairs they were doing. They forget about the ground temperatures being so hot the gardens were totally fried overnight. That whole area, right? The entire area is active, which means when it blows, it's going to crack all the way to the waters. So you're looking at all those coastal cities being overtaken by water. Also, we know that there's a shift happening in the Atlantic.
Yes.
That's connected to the larger areas. For example, like those who are familiar with Yellowstone, right? Mm-hmm. It could easily start to activate these deep calderas just like Yellowstone. That's why Yellowstone is having the activity it's having beyond its normal and seasonal signs it shows. It's showing something else. I'm not concerned about the earthquake swarms. I'm not concerned about, the new magma they've been picking up. What I am concerned about is in between Yellowstone and the Atlantic Ocean, you have activity, magma activity that's ramping up. And what that tells me is that the Mississippi, right? If anybody were to go out there and find the declination of the Mississippi, I can almost guarantee in a 2-month period, that declination is going to change. We're going to have landmass uplifts here in the USA. We already have deformations, and the Army Corps of Engineers is not allowed to say a word about the deformations all over the USA, which means we have activity that that people just don't want to track. It's kind of like the Gulf. They have fires coming from the floor of the Gulf. All right, people are talking about the hot waters and everything else.
Yeah,
magma is active all over the planet. Magma is your magma is just pouring out. It looks like a jet engine, right, in the Gulf. That's what it looks like.
Do they have
a jet engine? A few jet engines coming out of the Gulf. So of course, in parts of Florida, the water is going to be too hot for people to get into. That happened the other day. The water was too hot for people to get in certain parts of Florida. At specific times. Why? Because we have a lot of underground activity, right? So when people saw the eruptions that took place in the Atlantic, tip with ice and all those different places, that means that this underwater activity has really ramped up. Is what that means. We still have nickel being ejected from the ocean floor.
Yeah,
nickel, lots of nickel, and that implies a crack deeper then we're able to actually go down and see.
So do they have the technology, Mike, when they fly over the Earth to see the magma? Can they see? I know they can see it when it gets close to the surface or it's coming out of the surface, but I mean, how far deep can they see with
they have adaptive technology.
Sonographs.
Here it is. Back in the day, right, we used to have a some sort of probe to go down there and look, right? Right. Now they utilize the ground itself for sound. There was a long time when submarines had a problem looking through water. Anything had a problem looking through water. Right? That's not the case today. They have optics that can strip the water away. They have optics that can strip the top, 17 miles of earth away to see what's underneath. They can see far deeper. That's just a matter of what type of computing power you have with these optics. They have reconstructive technology, kind of like LiDAR, can strip away the trees of a jungle. And they're finding new cities and civilizations all over the place, like that place in Mexico, like the place in Brazil, the 2 places in Peru. These ancient ruins that they're finding that are humongarungus, and they never saw them before. They didn't know they existed. New cultures they're finding. They didn't know they existed, right? All this is coming on topically by way of LiDAR to see through the ocean, They
Yeah.
use satellites. They have an array of satellites, and they use sound in the water, right?
Yes.
They just use simple fluid dynamics formulas with AI, right, to run the scenarios to come out with the probability of the reflective properties of sound in the water. Not to get nerdy, but that's how they do it. And then they start looking below that. They know the magma is active because they know the temperature of the ocean floor, right? I'll give you another example. Why would a bunch of orcas beat themselves and scream? These things were screaming on the beach, not crying, not making little squeak noises. They were screaming. Dolphins did the same thing. They were screaming. They redirected all those dolphins and orcas back into the water, and an hour later, they came back screaming on the shores like they were trying to tell people something. They did it again, and they came back again screaming. They would not go back. They wouldn't go back in the water.
Because of the
I suspect
magma.
the conditions. I suspect it is magma, gases, and some other things because deep dwellers are being driven up.
Yeah.
And as odd as it sounds, yes, that means snakes with with a couple telephone pole girths, right? That's not unusual for a sea snake to present itself like that, right? So the head think of a head of a snake about 4.5 feet wide and possibly about 6 feet long.
Leviathan.
Now they have photos.
That's Leviathan.
They got photos.
Yeah,
and
I
pictures.
know.
Well, you'll get quite a few, right? There's going to be quite a few. Plus,
Huge.
other things are starting to move. You have ice sheets. These large ice sheets are breaking off underneath the waters, Pascal. The size of these things are huge.
Yeah.
Possibly, maybe like the size of Nebraska. Think of that. These big ice sheets breaking
What?
off.
Are you serious? I mean, Nebraska.
Right. The size of Nebraska. We have an ice sheet that they believe is going to break by Wednesday, and they don't know what they don't know what to do.
Is it in the north or south pole?
This is south, and they may have to issue a tsunami, right? But they don't know what to do because they don't know if it breaks off, what will actually take place. So they're crunching numbers to find out, because if it does take place, that's going to displace a lot of water. So nobody should be surprised if a tsunami warning comes out next week. Nobody should be surprised, and it will be an underwater event. Things like this are happening because a melt rate is happening pretty fast.
All right.
And that's just where we are.
Let me ask you a question also, another gear, and that is, we know that Netanyahu was on the phone today with Biden having a discussion here about another potential ceasefire or hostage swap or something. Do you is there really progress here, or is this just Biden trying to buy time, look like he's being presidential? Is there anything happening here?
That's buying time. I hate to say it. I hate to say it, because it's a very sad situation, right? It is sad.
There is no time.
I can only imagine me. In my mind, I think I'm doing something right. Everybody says, Mike, you didn't move for the last 2 days. What?
Yeah. So let's go back to that. So Joe Biden, no matter how much people try to say, Joe, don't you understand? You're saying he's to the point where he thinks he's doing a great job. He can't figure out why everybody's turning on him. Right. Because it's a sad situation.
Yeah.
And everybody told him how great he was all this time, even though the whole time they could see the decline. So you say come Monday. Do you think that come Monday we may actually see a shift of Biden leaving, Harris taking presidency? Who does she choose for the vice president? Who is that? Is that Mike Johnson?
Well, that language is going to start popping out, right?
Okay.
Now, because there's an election, this is during an election year, there are some special clauses and procedures that you take, right? Normally the speaker could take that seat as they go in succession, right? But if you look carefully, those successive powers are under specific conditions. They're not under all conditions. So in this case, because of continuity of government, outside of this biased atmosphere, there could be more than one individual taking over that seat of power, right?
Talking about the presidency or the vice presidency?
The presidency may take a small group, because you're talking about an elected position that instantly becomes a position that has nothing to do with an elected an appointment, right? It has nothing to do with that. You're talking about running Washington with an appointment, I'll say, not by an election. So that means this makes everything indeterminate, is what it makes. And to be honest with you, you know what could happen when it comes time for the election? Actually, Trump could automatically be appointed.
Appointed? You mean if he win let's say he won the election, they would?
Well, he won't have to win. He could go in a lot sooner than what he thinks. You're not going to go by procedure. If this happens, procedure is out of the window as far as standard elections. You know, because I know people are like, well, somebody's got to take his place and this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other. But see, here's the clause. He's already served as president once.
Right.
And he was not kicked out. His term ended. And that means everything. That means everything. Because he was the last one. If Obama was the last one,
then he would be eligible.
Then that clause would be effective for him. If
I didn't Clinton know. So you're saying that, but this is so. We're not talking about Article 25. Then we're not taking about, because Article 25 is the vice president taking the cabinet and saying,
right. That's right.
You're saying this is a different procedure. Does this involve the Supreme Court? Will this involve?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. So you're talking about and it will come out, right?
Yep.
Because people will have to hear this for themselves. They'll see it evolve. They'll say, well, what is this? What is this? They'll see it continue to evolve. And
it's going to be real confusing for the American public to understand this one.
Yeah, that's why they're not going to, I believe Monday, the language is going to start going out everywhere. In fact, I believe Monday is going to be one of those days where a lot of people start finding out what the intent is. And they're going to take that intent, and people are going to have to be careful what they believe starting Monday.
You know, Gavin Newsom was in Michigan today, meeting with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, which both their names have been up to be potential.
Yes. Yeah.
So is there's meetings going on? I mean, there was 25 congressmen who went to the White House today. There was 20 governors that were there yesterday. I mean, the big wheels are turning, aren't they? The big wheels are turning.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So come Monday, what do you think will be? What language? What will be the discussion? The talking heads on all the cable networks.
If I certainly do believe that people are going to start voicing their opinion as far as resignation. That word is going to start coming up.
Okay.
Demand will be another word that pops up, and then of course, with this added pressure, it's only going to make President Biden's condition worse, whatever that condition is. I'm not predetermining any condition here, but we know that cognitive decline is real. We know it's real, right? And that's one of the major issues. That means our country is at risk right now, every day.
Globally,
he's in office, right?
Every moment.
That's right, and globally. So that's the type of situation we face. You'd be like a person being real sick. If POTUS was super sick, got super sick all of a sudden, 25th Amendment would be evoked right away.
Right, would be.
In the absence of that. So, but when you have a person who has that type of mental decline and they can't quite react fast enough, and believe me, a few seconds in a delay of a presidential order can cost hundreds of thousands of lives, right? And wrong moves, well, they could be irrevocable, and all of us could pay for the wrong move, right? So our country could quickly go downhill. They have protection, mechanisms for that. And I suspect that this week, those protective measures are going to be brought forward.
This is a very interesting time. We've never been here. We've not been, and this is uncharted waters for the United States.
Correct.
Matter of fact, this is really rare for any country. I mean, I don't even know if I know of a country that removed its leader because of cognitive decline. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of the world.
And that's why they're going to have new procedures for this. They have different. It's been thought about before. There have been scenarios behind it. People have, it's been with a think tank or time or two, so people could get all the pieces in order. To have that evoked is going to be different.
So you're saying, Mike,
they're going to make up whatever story, but
you're saying, Mike, there's no turning back now. This is already in play. This isn't going to get just okay. It's over. We're okay. Joe's fine now. He just had a bad night. He just had a bad day. It's going to be okay. You're saying you can't the cat's out of the bag. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, can we?
That's right. Because anybody who thinks that, sure they can. Well, think of it this way: the very next interview he has an interview scheduled was that he had one scheduled for today, one
Yeah,
tomorrow,
but now
right? So
it's totally scripted. It's totally canned. It's going to be edited. I mean,
they're going to be
it's
looking,
yeah,
right? They're going to be looking at that too, and they're going to say, "Wait a minute," because now you can tell. See, people suspected something was going on, right?
right.
Now they don't have to suspect; they saw it for themselves. Who sits there? Because this guy was, he was,
It was
when Trump
sad.
started talking about golf, he said, "Well, I can play golf and carry my bag too." And he started smiling. I was, what is that?
I know.
People
I
that
know.
blew people away. But that's a condition that gets progressively worse because if you look at the videos during his campaign last time, Pastor Paul, if you hear him then versus now, that'll break your heart
Yeah,
for
it's
anybody.
sad.
It'll break your heart.
And I wonder, and I understand that look, I'm not going to get into people, the family and how they all and everybody. It's a tough thing. The country though has to have continuity. We have to
Yeah, we do.
have
We do.
structure. Well, even if we
We
got
do.
bad structure, I mean, even if we got a bad leader, we still got to have a structure to the system, or the whole society will break down. So this is a serious issue,
Yes.
and we should be very careful how
Yeah.
we speak about the president, and we should be very respectful, even because it's unfortunate situation, but it is a very serious situation, and
Yeah.
it affects every one of us. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah. It
So
does.
yeah,
It does.
yeah, something's going to happen. So Monday, Mike, for you to say something urgent breaking info, trust me. In other words, the big money people, and there might be only 13 families or something that really control the whole world financially. The big guns have said, we got to fix this. We got to fix it now. That we can't continue this path. We got to make this election look right as well. I mean, this is not just this situation, but this election's got to go off fair and balanced. Okay, one way or the other, it's got to cut,
Yeah.
or the world's going to call us a banana republic. We've lost our minds, and then the rogue nations start running loose. Am I
We
right?
will go to war. See, here's one thing they're watching for too. People are looking at America right now. If we ever drop our guard, they're going to take full advantage of it, right? There were already conversations intercepted. That's exactly what they're waiting on. They will hit us with everything they have, knowing that we have internal confusion. That is such a, that's why they're tampering with communications. That's why people lost their cell phone service, AT&T, Verizon, all these different services, because we were hacked. That's why right now, Microsoft, Apple, right? They have patches, more patches just came out, just released, because they found more breaches in these devices. That's why other devices are being shut down. Entire drone manufacturing facilities for civilians are halted, right? There's some things that are on the chopping block. They just simply cannot afford to have extra ears all over the place. So, but right now, if our president is in a declining position mentally, we're in trouble right now. And
Yeah.
this is what these big guys are saying. They're saying, hey, we have a problem right now, right? This has already affected the markets. And if something affects the markets, that's how they gauge what the people with money are feeling.
Oh, I know.
And we saw what happened to the markets, and people are asking, well, wait a minute, why are we declining? Because, of this, that, and the other. People have great insecurities and worries about what's happening. There are also rapid deployment forces ready to go. They were ordered to be ready to go in the last 24 hours.
Right.
Why in the world would we ever need that? That means we have people on standby indefinitely until, they're needed. Police are on cities. They're trying their best through media with artists, all sorts of things to calm the populace down. And
Folks,
then we find out.
Yeah.
One more thing, Pascal.
Okay.
You do. Side note: with all this stuff happening, America is full of serial killers. Do you know about the serial killers that are on they're truckers, right?
Tell us about it.
Girls and women.
Okay.
You don't know about that yet? Okay.
Well, I've heard. I mean, this has happened before in the past. We've had our serial killers, and we've dealt with the Ted Bundys of the world.
The
But you're saying
but
we
the
have
FBI
some.
now has brought it forward, right?
Okay, what we got going on?
One guy in particular, in the last 2 months, 50 women by himself in the last 2 months.
He's a trucker.
And so, yeah, he's a trucker. But they caught him, right? But there's a whole ring of these guys traveling in the southern corridors of the USA, in the southern half, from California all the way to, Florida. And they're driving these trucks, and they're at truck stops and everything else. They're trying to get girls in those trucks.
Right.
They're trying to. I'm sure that everybody in their own towns, especially as you start going far south, they notice that there's a lot of missing children reports and women, where you have these active serial killers, right? They found bodies stacked up in another tractor trailer, but it didn't belong to that guy. They found another one, and they traced it back to the individual. They can't find him, but it was stacked full of bodies, right? Women. So what they're doing is they're getting from anywhere from prostitutes and anything they can find, and they're putting them in these trailers. If they cannot sell the women, right, through, I'm not going to name the place, but that place was hit by a hurricane a while back, and it will probably needs to be hit again, but they'll sell it to the hub. Each person is worth about, I believe, it's $5 million a piece.
So human trafficking is going on. You're saying, and a lot of people are dying, and yet that's being very hushed. Not talked about. They're not bringing somebody forward, wrapped in chains, saying this guy killed 50 women. That ain't on the news nowhere. I mean, so because they're probably working a human trafficking ring that they're trying to bring down as many as they can, I take it.
It's so bad now. The FBI normally does not bring all those things forward, right? It is so bad right now that the FBI brought the whole thing forward. That's why they ask for the public's help. Now, if anybody knows the government, if the government has an investigation on anybody, they're going to have everything to convict you before they ever let you know you're being investigated. That's how thorough they are, because they hardly ever, they don't lose cases, right? They don't do that. And so to bring these guys forward, to let everybody know they have this problem, we know it's a big problem, because the FBI does not just come out and say stuff like that, right? It's a big problem.
Wow.
So,
wow.
That
mean, I know
note.
It is, but thank you for that side note. Yes.
Yeah.
And folks, when I say respect, I know what some folks are saying. I saw a couple comments there. I understand what you're saying, that it's hard to respect somebody that's done some of the things that they've been doing and the corruption. My point was the office. We have to respect the office.
That's right.
Okay, because if we lose the respect for the office and for the structure of our Constitution, then we won't have anything. I mean, we really won't have anything. So that's my point. Respect the office, and then pray for the nation. Pray because this country certainly needs prayer like never before. We're so vulnerable right now. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say. We're vulnerable. We're being cyber hacked. We have sleeper cells everywhere. We have nations that are thinking about taking major advantages because they know there's nobody really calling the shots. That the country is consumed with its own chaos of who's fighting for power. I mean, this causes us to become very vulnerable, and that causes a lot of our allies to be vulnerable. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Romania right now, if you're Romania, you don't feel real safe at this moment. If you're Poland, you're not sure that anybody's going to come to your aid if the Russians step in, because you don't even know who your president is in Washington right now. You guys, you know what I'm saying? It's a dangerous time.
We're, at any given time, we're involved in about 168 conflicts, USA's, right? and we cannot go without leadership. It'll fall back into, the days prior to us being a republic,
right?
Where we are. It'll fall back into those days, into some sort of, dictatorship by some person. Anyway, but, and with Joe, I know a lot of people don't like to respect him, but I'll tell everybody something, right? All of us have a past. All of us do. And these people up there in the White House, sometimes they honestly believe in their crooked causes.
Oh, sure.
They're groomed this way.
Sure,
I know Christians who were raised in these awful households, and they honestly believed that their way of doing things was the correct way, right? They honestly believe that, which is why I'm glad you said the seat,
Yeah,
the
the
seat.
seat.
Um, the people need prayer. Joe
Yes.
Biden needs prayer. His family needs prayer. Those
He
folks need
needs
prayer.
prayer, his
Yeah,
family, and everybody actually the whole country, but
yeah,
everyone in Washington, everyone that's working to try to run this nation needs a prayer.
yeah,
We're commanded to pray for our leaders.
yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. And
Amen.
look, I'm not the happiest. I'm not the happiest guy on the block with a lot of stuff I see goes on, but that doesn't
Me
stop
neither.
me. I know you aren't either, but I am going to pray because I know that is what I
Yeah,
should be doing. That's
that's
first
right.
and foremost. And so let's
I
keep that
and yeah, me too.
perspective.
Yeah, I refuse to allow Satan to make somebody else a target. I'm not
Right?
going to do that.
No,
That's what
that's
he
right.
does. He points people out. I'm not doing that.
Nope.
No, because Jesus came for those very folks that are caught in the midst of darkness that cannot escape.
Right.
They're lame, they're wounded, blind, and deaf, and that's what we came for. So
Amen.
I'm not going to do Satan's
We're
work
not going to
anymore.
go there,
Plus,
folks.
we're at risk. This
We're at
country's
risk.
at risk. If we don't get a replacement, if we don't have cognitive abilities active in the White House, we're going to be in trouble.
Yes, I know. The Book of Jude, you're exactly right. That's a good book to go read. Find out exactly our responsibility, not to speak evil of dignitaries. Okay, Mike, we're coming into this weekend. I really believe that this is a critical time in American history, and we'll be watching to see come Monday that you're saying the conversation is going to change.
Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
a process
Yeah.
will be starting to play out, and we just need to be prayerful, and
Yeah.
and of course, keep looking to the Lord. Look, our salvation's in Jesus Christ. We all know that. Every one of us know that. Redemption, salvation. He's our leader, our Savior. The Holy Spirit's our guide, and the Word of God
Yes.
has given us a set of blueprints to follow, and keep your feet on the ground and keep yourself balanced in your Christian faith and in your walk with God, and everything will be okay if you do that. You'll be okay for sure if you do that. And it's going to be tough times, Mike. I appreciate you bringing this stuff to us tonight. I mean, dropped some heavy load, but you really you what you put in my heart is the ability to say, okay.
They're asking about the hurricane.
The hurricane.
They're asking what Mike says about the hurricane.
All right, Mike. They want to know what you think about the hurricane right now. Beryl, that's been doing some serious damage, headed now, I guess, to Mexico, done some damage all along the way in the Caribbean, including Jamaica.
Yeah, it's going to continue. I believe it will continue, and I believe it's going to strengthen. Those waters in the Gulf are
Yep.
pretty warm,
Yep.
right? They're pretty warm. As soon as this wind mass picks up that warmth, Texas is going to get bit big
Yeah.
time. So unfortunately, Texas is going to have some issues again, right? But follow the track of this hurricane, right? They're about. I was looking at some of the more advanced systems. They counted 13 for some reason, 13 different storms that could very well follow that track before they start following that eastern path.
Really?
But either way, Florida is in red right now. Texas is in red right now. Louisiana is in red right now, and a part of the Gulf where all that heat is stemming from, they had that in purple. Now this is a model simulation that has gone through millions of scenarios showing trajectories of probable places that are going to get hit by some pretty drastic storms. Also, this system that's coming through, it's a baby system compared to what's going to come through.
Because the
It's a
water's
tiny little baby.
It's a baby.
Right?
Because you've been saying hypercanes are coming.
Yeah.
Storms bigger than Cat 5. I mean, if there is such a thing as a Cat 6 or super hurricanes is what you're saying is
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, because we keep having heavier particles come into our system, right?
Yep.
They keep settling in the atmosphere. They're going to do two things. They're going to heat up the upper atmosphere. They're going to cause greater density in the upper atmosphere. Greater density means higher wind speeds, right? The more density you have, the more you can feel temperatures, the more you can feel resistance and thrust. And so now we're going to have a lot more motion in the upper atmospheres. If we have that, a lot of motion in the upper atmospheres like that, we're going to have twice the motion at the surface here. That means wind speeds we think are impossible, we're about to have, right? Now, they will eventually move to the place, and this is going to sound nuts, but it's coming, to where we have a consistent wind speed on the earth. We'll never see a day again where the wind is not blowing. We're going to have a consistent wind speed no less than 60, but probably hovering around 125 to 130.
Every day?
Every day. No infrastructure can handle that.
No.
Think of a large dust storm, right?
No.
A large dust storm over the land masses, continuous. And then think of the oceans. What's going to happen to the water with that continuous air blowing that way, right? This is what we're heading into. That physical the physical density of these upper atmospheres, that is real. They're going to have to move every single satellite because of friction, right? They already have to maneuver satellites just about every week. It's happening every week, right? Now it used to be every 5 months, and then before that it was every 5 years. Now it's every 2 weeks. They have to maneuver satellites. Why? Because of friction.
So
you can't have a satellite up there, but with all that friction.
Right, it'll fall out of this. So Planet X, or this binary system. I mean, this thing is coming. I mean, there's no doubt. There's no slowing down, is there? There's just no slowing down.
No, we live. It is so painfully obvious. We're right stuck in a binary system, right? I'm gonna say binary because I haven't seen any third star, but the mathematics is such a telltale thing. If you account for the binary mass of the twin to our system, all the celestial mechanic formulas work without adjustment. Right now, they do not work because 99% of the mass that we're supposed to have in this solar system is not in the solar system. Now, they get that from the inertia, right? Inertia being carried over. The motions of the planets and everything else, right? If you model that, you find out that 99% of the mass that accounts for the formulas, right, for torsion fields and inertia and all these different celestial issues or these elements that you have to have for motion, they're offset, right? So you have these constants that you have to throw in there, that you have to calculate, come up with, and throw in there. And those constants, they change every season. That means 4 times a year, right? Why? Because there's a perturber out there, right? That is humongous. That is, and if you add that in and estimate its size and its force, and
it's huge.
Then all the mathematics works perfectly.
That's why they know it's out there. That's because they can't see it.
There you go.
I think it was BP Earthwatch in our last, maybe it was the last webinar, said that this thing is huge, maybe 10 times larger than the Earth, but it's dark. It's cold. You can't see it.
That's right. You can't. And you know how we can't see it? Because they know for a fact, right? Amateur astronomers, they know for a fact that I think it was a couple of years ago, they picked up this gravitational anomaly or attraction, right? And they found an object that was sitting right there in front of their faces. It was so cold they couldn't see it. And the only way they caught it, they started looking at the mathematics. They started looking at many images. And then I believe it was something happened, a flash or something like that out there by Pluto or something like that, but it happened at just the right time to give this object away. And it was there the entire time, and they couldn't even see it. So we face that situation. Now, we may never see that twin,
right?
But we may see the solar system of that twin. I believe we will. We're going to see the solar system of that twin. And according to, it probably has all the damages that we're missing here, because a lot of people look here and they say, well, we should have much more damage than what we have. Now we have craters and everything else. There's no recent damage, right? I believe this other system has all the damage. Then when you start working out all the dates according to the record in the rock strata, right? Because the rock strata can tell you what the magnetic fields were, the rotation of the Earth and everything else. What magma was doing, was it raining or not? You start looking at that table and you find out this object is starting its process yet again. And this is why we have a problem with the entire southern, that ring around the Earth that is called the equator, right? That is appointed to be the equator by way of inertia and rotation of the Earth. That's going to be altered. because the sun's axis
Is
is being
altered.
altered. It
Yes.
cannot maintain its usual axis. It can't do it. It keeps changing, right? And something is altering the sun. So it, whatever it is, well, we know what it is, but it has this consistent push and pull effect on everything in this solar system. Which is why I'm telling everybody, keep your eyes on Jupiter, because the atmosphere of Jupiter, past, you know what the hottest part of Jupiter is?
No, I don't.
The red spot.
Okay, and that red
Do you
spot,
know that
yeah.
the atmosphere of Jupiter is hotter than any of its interior? They lied about Jupiter, period. But that little red spot, they pulled the temperatures off that spot. They continue to do it. It is incredibly, unbelievably hot. Jupiter's atmosphere, right, can easily be ignited by some external force, even by accident.
Mm.
So and it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So is Venus, right?
Yeah.
The Neptune is changing, and we have a killer inside of our solar system. It's called Mercury, and I'm just waiting until it's drawn away out of its orbit. That thing is a bullet for Earth, is what that is. So you're essentially looking at a big metal ball, and people must have seen Mercury up close. So
At some
not
time,
only
you're talking about
will we
the,
face the destroyer, right?
yeah.
But we're going to lose the ability to maintain the orbit we have. Plus, we're coming up on a time where we don't have a perfect circle. It's kind of like oval, and
Right.
then it goes more circular than oval. Well, we're reaching the apex of a point now where a real shift is starting its process of taking place. It's going to be marked by chaotic fields in the or chaotic fields of the magnetosphere, right? So we will have that time when the magnetosphere is not effective. During that time, oh Lord, help us all, right? That's not going to be a good time.
It's not. But I'm glad we keep talking about it because you know the Bible tells us that the earth will be melting with a fervent heat at some point. The Bible tells us that there's going to be deep impacts in the ocean and on the land. We know one star is called wormwood. There's going to be radiation. There's going to be an ash environment. That, you know, there's blood and fire and pillars of smoke. I mean, all of that's prophesied to happen. And now scientifically, we see this, what is causing it and what's going to do it. And God said basically this stuff's going to all happen right toward the end, just before the coming of the Messiah. You're going to see these things taking place. And so we shouldn't be shocked by it happening, but we still are stunned. Mike, I got one more thing. They asked one more thing about the draft. I saw some folks in the chat room want to know if you would just reiterate a little bit more about the draft. Are you saying that this draft is going to be implemented? Do you see this coming maybe in the next administration? What is the thoughts on the draft?
No, I'm just saying they allotted the government the power, right,
to do it if they want to.
Anybody on that list, right? From what is it? From I'll say 16 to 26. I'm going to say 16 to 26 because they have a few clauses in there. So that draft, they no longer need a person's permission. They pull that information from a database, right?
Yeah.
And so any federal database, they can get your information from and kapoof, right? Or Facebook, something like that. But and most people have a license. They do. They want to get their license and drive. Well, there you are. That's a federal database, Real ID.
Yes,
Real ID is in the federal database. And so they passed this fairly quickly. My belief is this. I think they passed that fairly quickly, because they may have to do emergency deployments.
Yeah.
Without a moment's notice. And we could, because we live in a world where they have some very big weapons, right? These big weapons can kill hundreds of millions of people at a time. And if they need an entire areas of their troops replaced, then they're going to draft whoever they need to do it. They may run through all of our guys first, right? They're going to need all types of forces.
Right.
Normally, when you do a draft, it's because you run out of ground troops. You have some sort of ground operation. And if people listen carefully about the conflict in the Ukraine with Russia, you start to hear about the terrain and ground operations. If you hear about the tactical engagements spoken of with Iraq and Iran, the U.S. against them and Israel against them, they're going to be large-scale ground operations. You can't do everything by air because Russia has the air coverage. They got that covered. They can blow anything out of the sky. So that means large amounts of people will be deployed. They expect major losses. They expect the northern hemisphere to be contaminated at some point. Right, so they need a way to go ahead and send their boys out. Now, here's something. Not only did the USA do it, but so did the other countries.
I see.
We align with their procedures now. So a commander of NATO can now issue a draft of the entirety of the U.S. along with the other nations. Right?
We gave up that sovereignty.
That's right. We can truly give NATO command and control. And America would just be a component of that large army.
Wow. All right. Well, we shouldn't be shocked. We've done the draft before. We shouldn't be shocked that it will be probably at a process at some point be enacted again. Let's hope not. Let's hope we don't get in that world, but it seems like that world's coming, whether we like it or not. That's why we need to be ready. We need to be prayed up. Mike, appreciate tonight. A lot of great information, a large scope of information, but very eye-opening. But then again, we got to be. The grown-ups have to step up now. The prayer warriors got to step up. The believers have got to stand on their feet and believe in the name of Jesus, because we are in a difficult time and it's going to get worse, and that's just the way it is. Mike, appreciate you coming on, being with us tonight. Really am.
Fastball's always an honor, always.
Thank you. The honor's mine. Truly is. Thank you. God bless you, Mike.
God bless.
All right.
God bless.